Reservoir Dogs. A group of criminals gather after a jewelry heist goes completely wrong. Nobody fully trusts each other, and the entire film slowly turns into a tense argument about betrayal, loyalty, and survival. What makes the movie stand out is how little of the actual robbery is shown. Quentin Tarantino focuses instead on conversation, silence, and pressure between characters trapped in one place. The film introduced many of the themes that would later define his style. Pulp Fiction. Several separate stories unfold across Los Angeles, but they constantly cross paths in unexpected ways. Two hitmen discuss ordinary life while working dangerous jobs, a boxer tries to escape mob control, and a gangster's wife drifts through a strange night that nearly ends in disaster. The film became famous for its structure because scenes are shown out of order, yet somehow everything still connects emotionally. Tarantino blended crime cinema with dark comedy, pop culture references, and quiet philosophical conversations. Over time, the movie became one of the most influential films of the 1990s. Jackie Brown, an airline stewardess, becomes trapped between the police and a gun smuggler after being caught carrying illegal money. Unlike Tarantino's earlier films, this story moves more slowly and focuses heavily on character relationships. Jackie is older, experienced, and constantly underestimated by the people around her. The film is based on a novel by Elmore Leonard, which gives it a more grounded and mature feeling compared to Tarantino's more explosive projects. It also pays tribute to 1970s blaxploitation cinema, especially through the casting of Pam Grier, who was one of the genre's biggest stars. Kill Bill, Volume 1. A former assassin wakes from a coma after being betrayed and left for dead by her old team. She begins a brutal journey of revenge against the people who destroyed her life. The film combines martial arts movies, samurai cinema, anime influences, and spaghetti western style into something highly stylized and visually bold. Tarantino treats violence almost like choreography, turning fight scenes into carefully designed sequences rather than realistic combat. The story is emotional underneath all the action because the main character is driven by loss, betrayal, and the need to reclaim her identity. Kill Bill, Volume 2. The revenge story continues, but this time the tone becomes quieter and more emotional. Instead of focusing mainly on action, the film spends more time exploring relationships, memory, and personal history. The bride finally confronts Bill himself, and their conversations reveal the deeper emotional damage beneath the violence. Tarantino shifts from martial arts spectacle toward Western influences and intimate character moments. The result feels more reflective and personal, completing the story in a way that emphasizes emotion as much as revenge. Death Proof. A stuntman uses his car as a weapon to stalk and kill women on lonely roads. The film was designed as a tribute to exploitation movies from the 1970s. Tarantino intentionally added scratches, missing reels, and rough visual effects to recreate the feeling of old, damaged film prints. The movie is split into two parts, with the second half reversing expectations and turning the victims into the people fighting back. While some viewers consider it one of his smaller projects, many appreciate its practical stunt work and commitment to old-school filmmaking techniques. Inglourious Basterds. During World War II, a group of Jewish-American soldiers hunts Nazis across occupied Europe, while a young woman secretly plans revenge against the officers who killed her family. Tarantino mixes historical fiction with fantasy and suspense, eventually rewriting history entirely by the film's ending. Dialogue becomes the film's main weapon. Long conversations create unbearable tension even before violence begins. Christoph Waltz's performance as Hans Landa became especially famous because the character is intelligent, polite, and terrifying at the same time. The film showed Tarantino becoming more ambitious in both scale and historical storytelling. Django Unchained. A freed slave joins a bounty hunter and travels across the American South searching for his wife. The film combines Western traditions with the history of slavery in America, creating a story about freedom, revenge, and power. Tarantino uses the visual language of classic spaghetti westerns but places it inside one of the darkest periods of American history. The contrast between entertaining adventure and painful historical reality became one of the movie's most discussed aspects. Leonardo DiCaprio's performance as plantation owner Calvin Candy added another layer of cruelty and unpredictability to the story. The Hateful Eight. 8 strangers become trapped inside a remote cabin during a snowstorm shortly after the American Civil War. Nobody fully trusts anyone else. and the atmosphere slowly grows more dangerous as secrets begin to surface. Tarantino structures the movie almost like a stage play, with most of the story taking place in one location. The film focuses heavily on dialogue, racial tension, deception, and paranoia. Even though it was shot using extremely wide film cameras usually reserved for epic landscapes, Tarantino intentionally keeps the characters confined together, making the environment feel claustrophobic despite the massive visual format. Once upon a time in Hollywood. An aging television actor and his stunt double struggle to adapt to Hollywood as the film industry changes around them in 1969 Los Angeles. At the same time, actress Sharon Tate lives her life unaware of the tragedy connected to her future. Rather than building constant tension, the movie spends much of its time simply observing people, locations, and routines from a fading era of Hollywood history. Tarantino recreates the atmosphere of late 1960s California with incredible detail, from radio broadcasts to movie posters and television sets. The story eventually transforms history once again, offering an ending built around nostalgia, fantasy, and the idea of preserving innocence through cinema.